Thank you for clicking on the 2-minute drills from behind the camera. This is Aram's Allegiance and Gabriel Valley Newspaper Group football writer. The reason you're seeing Fred Robledo on the right and Miguel Melendez on the left is because we've got a nice crossover Tribune versus Star News game coming up on Thursday night at Monrovia High School. The Monrovia Wildcats, defending Mid-Valley Division champions, will be hosting Glendora in a game that is the season opener for Monrovia and the second game of the year for Glendora. Guys, get right into this. Freddie, we saw Glendora last week. What do you think? Mixed feelings?
I was impressed with Glendora. Todd Quincy's first year, they lost to Charter Oak 17-6, Aram, in a game that they actually should have had the lead at halftime. Charter Oak scored late at the end of the first half and only scored 3 points in the second half. And this is an electric Charter Oak offense, one that I think, with all due respect to Monrovia, I think Charter Oak probably has a better offense than Monrovia. So yeah, to see what...
Fire up Observant Cat right there.
What Glendora was able to do against them. And here's the other thing, is you got to remember Charter Oak's a Sierra League team. This is a team that won 2 championships a couple of years ago. They're going to compete in the Inland. Glendora, their line, you talk about Corey Victoria, Donovan Holmes, no matter who they put back there, they were able to move the chains pretty good on Charter Oak. That's why and they beat Monrovia last year, and Monrovia, as much as everyone wants to talk about all the guys they do not have the 2-time Player of the Year, Nick Bueno, and I just think Glendora is going to give them a run for their money, Miguel.
Freddie, you just bought yourself about a 3-page essay on the blog from Observant Cat. Yeah. Miguel, man, what do you have to say to that? He's questioning your number 1 ranked team there.
I just don't know how all of a sudden Glendora can come in and think that they can beat a Monrovia team, especially after all the hype you guys gave Charter Oak as a number 1 team in the area over Bishop Amat to only win 17-6, and to say that Glendora should have been up at halftime, to me seems like you're kind of there's a bit of a contradiction going on there. I think we don't know yet what Monrovia is going to be doing, and we'll see what they'll do on Thursday. But to come out and say that a 17-6 loss really is a moral win, it doesn't seem to add up for me.
Well, so you got to watch the games, and when you talk about them, remember my number 1 team is Bishop Amat. I'm leading with Charter Oak because that was Aram's puppy. He tabbed them number 1, and we're going to respect that this week.
Well.
But Charter Oak, they're going to be a great team, Miguel, and that's why I took a wait and see approach. All that stuff you're talking about was preseason stuff before we see these teams play. We saw them play over the weekend on Friday night, and like I said, I was impressed. Throw away the score. Just look at the game. The way they were able to move the ball and sustain drives. They even had a touchdown call back. They were really unlucky not to have a lead in that game. And what they were able to do in the second half. The second half, you thought Charter Oak, right, Aaron, was going to just open this game up. Aaron even predicted in the pregame show, they may be sluggish at first, then they're going to open it up. That didn't happen.
Nope.
3-0,
Freddie. That was the score in the second half. 3-0.
They held them to 3 points.
God.
And this is why I want to see games like this for Monrovia, Miguel. Because like I said, I looked last year at their schedule. They lost to Glendora, like I said. Right. And the other toughest game they played the whole year was against South Hills, another Sierra League team that finished 3-7. And they won that in the fourth quarter in a spectacular game. These step-up games, these upper division games that Monrovia faces, they've got to win these games. And not only that, if they want to be considered among the upper echelon of all the teams in San Gabriel Valley, they've got to show some swagger in games like this. Not just win and get by. They've got to show some swagger. They're at home. You're right. They should on paper beat Glendora. But I'm taking Glendora in this game because I have a pretty good feeling about it. I like what they saw last week. I know Todd Quincy, their coach. I know that he's secretly really putting together a pretty good plan for this game. And they're going to run the ball. They're probably not going to run the ball up their throat with McCarthy standing in the middle, but they're going to be able to get outside. They're going to be able to move the chains, Miguel, and this is going to be a very tough game for Monrovia because what they're going to do is they're going to stretch the game. They're going to make it long. They're going to go on long drives, and that's going to be frustrating for Monrovia, who wants to get on top of them real quick and and stomp their feet and pump their chest. That's not going to happen. You're going to have a game in the fourth quarter, and Glendora's going to pull it out.
Yeah, I think one of the advantages that you guys have is you've seen Glendora play already. They've already played a game in week 0. Monrovia still hasn't had anything going on yet. They had CV in the scrimmage game last week, but other than that, we really don't have much to go off of. I think there's still a 2-quarterback system where we don't know yet if G5 is going to end up becoming the starter or if the other kid from the transfer from St. Francis will end up taking that role, or maybe they'll both be playing in there. There's still some uncertainties in terms of that, but as far as everything else, as far as the pieces go on the defensive line with McCarthy and Lorenzo Casas, we also have Deshaun Ramirez at running back. There are some pieces that are pretty stable, but at the quarterback spot, I think it starts from there, and we see a domino effect. What happens there, I think, will determine the outcome of Thursday's game.
And last thing, here's my thing with Monrovia. I do not doubt those impact players that you mentioned. Those guys can play at Bishop Amat. They can play at Servite. They can play anywhere. My questions with them are the same questions I have when I'm trying to pick Bishop Amat in a game like Servite. I just think Servite, when you look at those teams, they have that depth. They have a lot of big guys in the line. I mean, it's a little different. Monrovia, they have those impact guys, but I don't know, when you go down the roster and you talk about 60, 70 players deep on a varsity team, if they match up well against upper division teams like Glendora. Impact for impact, Monrovia has as good or maybe better impact players than anyone in the Valley. But when you start getting down to that 12th player, that 13th, that 14th, you go down the line, I'm not so sure. That's why games like this are important. And we're going to find out on Friday night. I mean, if they're Thursday night, if they're as good as everyone says they are, we're going to find out on a Thursday. I'm taking a wait and see. Glendora beat them last year. They don't have the player of the year. I'm taking Glendora this year.
Well, Glendora doesn't have Chad Jeffries either. So
that's a great point.
Monrovia, I think that they're just all the hype we've seen throughout the summer and what they found. Last year, you're right. They lost to Glendora, lost some early season games, but I think as the season went on, they finally were able to kind of break away from that.
They don't have Jeff, but you give me a team that can move the chains, that can run the ball, and do that on a consistent basis. Consistent basis in high school, I'll take that over a great quarterback anytime. Because when you can move the ball and can control the clock, you win football.
Well, I'll take that a step further, Freddie. When you have an offense like Glendora's that can bore the defense to death, which is what they did to Charter Oak. I mean, you saw Charter Oak's defensive guys. Those guys want to rush the passer and play wild in the secondary. Yeah. You don't do that against Glendora. You have to stay home. You have to stop the run. You have to do XYZ to handle that wing, and they Charter Oak handled the wing. They only held them at 6 points, but Monrovia reminds me a lot of Charter Oak. They're one of those teams with those kinds of athletes that want to get in that kind of up-tempo game and make big plays on defense, and they're not going to be allowed to do that. But Monrovia has experience against wing T teams because they play San Dimas seems like twice a year, every year. So I don't think they're going to be shocked by anything they see.
San Dimas blowout-type performances. And I say that because you look at Glendora struggling against Charter Oak last week. How big would that be for Monrovia to say, okay, now it's our turn, and they just go in there and whip them 40-0 or 45. Just go in there and just take care of them.
Right.
That would say a lot about Monrovia.
Right.
And I'm not anti-Monrovia in any case. I worked over the Star News. That was one of my favorite places to go watch a football game. I know they have passionate fans, and I just think this is their opportunity. Even before you get into the Rio Honda League, which I think they're going to cruise through. I think they're going to, cruise on their way to the final in the Mid-Valley Division. Get there. I didn't say they're going to win it yet.
Because you saw Covina. That's why
I saw Covina. These games against Glendora, South Hills, those are Valley measuring sticks, and they have a chance to really, right now, stamp their foot and say we belong with those teams. Maybe even better. If they can work Glendora, I mean, just take care of them the way Charter Oak couldn't, that would say a lot about Monrovia being maybe arguably the #1 team in the Valley on Aram's all-encompassing poll next year.
That's okay, well, pick it, guys. We got a minute left.
Glendora.
Okay.
I'm on a record.
Miguel, you wanted to say something, and also I'll make your pick here.
No, two quick things. I mentioned on the blog earlier today that that's going to be our common opponent score: Monrovia, Glendora, Charter Oak. So we'll see at the end of the outcome which team, arguably on paper, will probably be the better team. Second, I also said that Freddie. That Rogaine has kind of penetrated his head a little bit. I think that if
you say Rogaine?
Rogaine.
The hair's growing. The color may change, but the hair keeps coming out.
Is it bad hair for a man? If Glendora wins,
he's obviously upset today.
I'm just under the weather. If Glendora wins, I will take Freddie out to lunch. If Monrovia wins, I will see.
You expect a lunch back? You're the big 28-point favorites.
All right. Well, Fred's sticking with the hometown, taking Glendora. Miguel's got Monrovia. Big Aram's got Monrovia also. I got to see more out of that Glendora offense, and if they fall behind and Monrovia can actually start laying some daggers in them, unlike Charter Oak, the game could get away from them. All right, but at any rate, that's a great game to go watch. Yeah, Monrovia hosting Glendora on Thursday night. Go check it out. Two fantastic teams. Enjoy it.